another thing I want to talk about, actually, and it's something that I notice a lot on social media, and it's really, really problematic. It's something that I really, really want to get across to all of you, and it's a little bit about the psychology of anger. Here, I'll show something that'll anger a lot of you right now. I have World of Warcraft going. Now that I have World of Warcraft going, there's going to be a few of you who are going to go into my comment section and talk about how you don't want me showing video game footage because showing video game footage is distracting. There's also going to be some of you now who are going to make comments about Blizzard and how bad of a company they are, and I shouldn't be playing one of their games because of the bad things Blizzard has done. And I understand both of those perspectives, and I'm not going to talk about my opinion on either of those perspectives in this video. I simply want to point out that those perspectives show up, and they will show up all the time on a political channel that is going to bring up something like this. Either it's distracting to the argument, or you shouldn't be supporting X corporation here. Meanwhile, the person goes and buys their shorts from Walmart, and then suddenly we have to have a conversation about exactly how much net damage is the money you're letting out of your pockets doing. Regardless, the point is, you're angry in that moment, even if it's in a small way. Even if it's in a very, very small way. Strategy Guy says, are people still complaining about Blizzard? So, whether or not they are complaining, there are complaints to be had, and the complaints have merit. The culture that Blizzard had that was not very, very good for its employees, the crunch culture that screwed with its employees, the sexist atmosphere that was there that actually led some of the employees to self-harm, like that all of that is there. This is one of the other problems of social media. We'll get into that here in a second, but whether it is justified or not, there is a feeling that people get when they see something that they believe is wrong. The best word I could use for it is righteous indignation. Is the absolute best word I could possibly use for it. Think about 5 things. 5 things that you consider yourself expressly against. Now, let's say that any person brings one of those things up on Twitter. Do you have the feeling that you need to fight with them? Do you have the feeling that you need to argue against them? Why do you feel that? A lot of people don't take a lot of time to actually ask themselves that question, but most of the time it's because we as human beings really, really, and to an uncomfortable degree, we love the feeling of being right. We love that feeling of righteousness that we get to, and that righteousness gets associated with that feeling of anger. We know we're right about a thing, and we consider a thing morally wrong, and then we get angry about that thing. We get angry about that thing, and then when other people are playing a game that is associated with that thing, or talking about that thing on Twitter, we then have that righteous indignation towards that thing. And all of the anger that we have towards a faceless company, for instance, now gets directed at the person. It now gets directed at a person who has no control over that thing and are simply one of a billion tiny pieces in this conversation. So let's go ahead and have a scenario. A person is playing a video game from a company that you do not like for one reason or another, whether it's Valve because they're allergic to the number 3, or Blizzard because of the ways that they abuse their employees, or let's say that it's Activision. I mean, Activision has merged with Blizzard, so same thing. Ubisoft and the crunch culture that Ubisoft has had, or Nintendo and the way that they have absolutely suffocated their own fan bases with their internal policies, or be it Sega with the crunch culture they've used that has led to the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise being a major laughingstock, or maybe it's Square and the culture that is associated with their games and the ways that some of their botched games have gone. Like, maybe it could be any of these things. It doesn't matter. Let's just say that a person is playing one of these games. And whether for right or wrong, you're angry about that, so you decide to pick a fight with that person. Now, ask yourself a question. Does this person playing that game or enjoying that hobby or what have you, does this change anything? Does the individual person change anything in the grand scheme of things? The answer is no. But a lot of people feel the need to have the fight anyway. They feel that need. Like, let's say one person decides that they really, really want to go into law enforcement. Not because they want to be part of the 40% of police officers who beat their wives. Not because they want to be one of the police officers that gets to handle a gun and shoot somebody in the field. No, they want to go into the system and reform it. But you have the opinion, all cops are bad. And it's a valid opinion to have, because everybody who is a police officer is, through some form or another, assisting in a system of violence. So you take that opinion, this person goes and they start supporting their family with this job. Now let's say that through the jail that they are working at, they actually do manage to push through a lot of reforms and get life for the incarcerated individuals in this jail cell to be infinitely better than they were before. But you've still got that opinion. You've still got that opinion. All cops are bad. You've got that opinion, and so you're still going to fight this person because they are part of a system. Now, if this person leaves the jail, they stop working at the jail, that doesn't change anything about that system. That system still needs to be either overhauled, reformed, or destroyed. That one person is not responsible for all of the damage that system has done. But you, on the internet, you do not have the tools necessary to fight that system. You're an individual. So instead of finding a way to unite with other people to reform, overhaul, or destroy that system, you instead start fighting every individual person you can find on the internet. You make up justifications for why they need to die. And I'm not strawmanning here. This is a thing that happened on my stream. Why do people do this? Well, it's because we really like the seduction of that righteous indignation. We know we're right. We know we're correct. We know that if only everybody else around us changed their way of thinking to something closer to ours, the world would be a better place. But the reality is the world's a lot more complicated than that. And there are ways to make the case for how somebody should, how a company should change the way that it's treating its employees, for instance, without telling people who might have grown up on their games and really enjoy playing them, and that is their comfort place, without telling them that they shouldn't play that. Or they're a horrible person and they're part of the problem because they're playing it. Or telling somebody who's supporting their family while doing basically no harm as a member of law enforcement. Not saying every law enforcement person does not do harm, obviously. Conversation has nuanced. Also, that is an elite modeled raptor. That is scary. I'm running away from that. But you will not convince somebody to your side when somebody tells you, hey, I have a family member who works for this organization that you do not like. And this is their experiences here, and this is how they treat their family. You don't win anybody's allegiance when you tell them your family member deserves to die. Okay. You're not making me like cops more, obviously. My opinion on them still hasn't changed. But you're not going to win me to your side. You're not going to win anybody to your side that way. But we are always attracted to that. Oftentimes, it's infinitely more satisfying to be mad about something than to actually take the time to figure out why you feel mad about the thing. You feel mad about the thing because the thing makes you feel vulnerable. Whether it's the police or abuses in the games industry or retail industry, you feel vulnerable because there is an injustice happening somewhere that you cannot solve. And instead of acknowledging that you can't solve it, and there are a million micro steps that need to be made to fix it, it's way faster, it's way easier to get angry at somebody online about it, to fight somebody online about it, and feel like that's going to do some good. You can tell yourself, oh, I'm doing this to change their mind. No, you're not. You're not trying to change somebody's mind all the time. It's perfectly reasonable to be honest with yourself and say, hey, sometimes I'm fighting just to fight. Sometimes I'm fighting because I want to convert that vulnerable feeling, that feeling of weakness that I have, into something that I can control. If I'm shouting at somebody on the internet, if I'm getting angry at that person on the internet, I feel like I have more control in that situation. I know I have the position of moral superiority, and as long as I can control the conversation, I have a modicum more control of my life. But that's not really how it works, is it? That's not really how it works at all. You didn't gain any more control because you started a fight with somebody on Twitter. The situation's identical. All that changed is your perspective. All that changed is how you feel about the situation. And how you feel about the situation isn't changing it at all. Some people end up having the really, really bad habit of, instead of recognizing that they are vulnerable, recognizing that they do not like the feelings of dealing with the world around them, instead of taking the time to look internally and go, well, what can I change about myself, and what about this can I control? They have a really bad habit of converting that into anger and then trying to direct that anger somewhere. Now, I'm not saying you're not allowed to be angry. No reasonable person who cares about mental health will tell you you're not allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be mad. But the thing with anger is a tool. We get addicted to feeling angry and not doing anything, when, in all honesty, what we should be doing is taking that anger and fueling something with it. I hear about a trans person getting hurt or killed or some other terrible thing happening to them because of the screwed up world we live in, and instead of just yelling online about it, I make a channel and I start trying to talk about it, to raise awareness about it, and to try to argue in favor of expanding rights for these people who are having their rights taken away. I'm not saying I'm any better. I've spent plenty of time arguing with people on Twitter.com and not doing anything useful besides just starting fights. But what you need to be doing, more than just getting online and fighting with people, or getting online and consuming media that just gets you angry more often, because we get addicted to that. There's a reason why the phrase, if it bleeds, it leads, is a thing in news media. People, by and large, want to pretend that they don't like being angry. But people, by and large, are addicted. Like human beings, as a species, we are addicted to being enraged. This is one of the reasons why Twitter is so successful. People fight on Twitter all the time. The threads that rise to the top on Twitter are almost always the ones with the most engagement, and the ones with the most engagement are the ones where people are fighting. Anger is a tool, and instead of using it to make something, using it to create something, people use it more to destroy. They want to destroy somebody online in an argument, and that makes them feel better, instead of creating a piece of media that talks about the actual problem at hand. They'd rather cut 1,000 people down around them than actually try to create something that advocates for the people that they are trying to advocate for, ostensibly. The truth of the matter is, when you are angry about something, when you are enraged about something on the internet and you're consuming content that keeps making you angry, let's say that you don't like Jewish people, and so you watch a lot of content from anti-Semitic people who are talking your ear off about how the Jews are the biggest problem in the world. What are you actually doing with that anger? You're not solving the problem. You're not figuring out why you're actually angry. You're just keeping yourself in a cycle of being more and more angry. And then you're justifying it by pretending that it's making you more informed, instead of actually taking the time to ask yourself, well, why do I feel this way? And then going down the Socratic method. Oh, I feel this way about Jewish people because I feel like they have control over the money, and the money controls the world. And therefore, I'm in a situation where I'm poor, and I feel like that's a direct, that's something that is directly the fault of investment bankers around me, and those investment bankers are Jewish, so therefore I hate Jewish people. Before you ever ask yourself, like, wait, hold on, what's the Jewish part? Why does that matter? What part did their religion play in this that matters at all? And when you realize, oh, you're actually just mad at capital. You're mad at capital, not Jewish people. You're mad at fucking capital. This one's reasonable. What was that quote from Philosophy Tube ages ago? Leftists and alt-right people both agree that there's a shadowy organization that controls the world. Just one group thinks it's capitalist and the other group thinks it's Jews. The truth is, people love being angry. Not you individually, people as a species. They love being angry. This bears out in the news we watch. This bears out in the videos we watch. This bears out all the time in the way we interact with each other online, the way we tear each other down instead of trying to build each other up. And people don't realize that that anger creates new problems for themselves. They never address that vulnerability, that feeling of insecurity. They instead start fighting people around them, even people they care about. This creates a ton of social issues for themselves. Imagine how hard it is to make friends if you are known in a friend group as the guy who starts fights. How long are you going to maintain being in that friend group if you are known as the guy who starts the fights? I can tell you what happens. You get drunk one day and you start a fight, and instead of addressing how you feel about the gay people or the trans people, you start a fight with your gay and trans friends around you, and then try to justify yourself as being superior because you're drunk enough to let those sober thoughts turn into drunk words. Ask me how I know that that one happens, because I'm not pulling these things out of straw man thin air. The examples I'm using are things that have either happened on my stream or things that have happened to groups of people that I'm a part of. I've watched the anti-Semite morph from, oh, well, Jews just happen to control things and that's just how things are, to actually consuming a shit ton of alt-right media. I've watched the person be a viewer on my streams and then go on a tirade about how my cousin should kill themselves. I've watched a member of my Dungeons & Dragons group just ask questions every week until eventually they get drunk enough to start a tirade about how my partner at the time shouldn't have gotten their uterus taken out, because relationships that can bear fruit, as it were, are better relationships than ones that can't, and then going on a tirade about liberals and trans people and gay people. I'm not saying this stuff or going on this conversation out of thin air. I'm doing this because I have personally, throughout my life, in the last 3 years alone, witnessed all of these scenarios happen and repeat themselves over and over and over again, and then I hear stories from friends that have similar situations happen with them and their loved ones or their friends. And ultimately, the root of it is all the same. There is a thing that makes you angry, whether it's Jewish people, capitalists, gay people, trans people, what have you, black people. Somebody refuses to recognize that they are angry at this one group for whatever reason, and then because they never take the time to address that, They start fights with a bunch of other people about that. And then slowly their circle of friends diminishes, and they get caught in a cycle of self-hatred. And it's because despite that feeling of emptiness and despair, despite those feelings of anger, we get addicted to the despair. We get addicted to the loneliness. We get addicted to the anger. We feel like the anger is righteous. We feel like the loneliness is something that we should have because we are the lone wolf and we know better than everybody else, and it's okay that the loneliness happened because ultimately we know what we're talking about, and that makes things okay, even if we've isolated ourselves from every loved one around us. Human beings have 1,000,000,005 different ways to justify terrible, fallacious thinking. And again, we adore being angry. We love watching the person with righteous indignation on the stage. We love being the person with righteous indignation on Twitter. We love that shit. We adore that shit. We revel in that shit. We write stories about that shit. And in the end, we get a whole bunch of people addicted to social media, unable to come to terms with their own mental issues, their own anger, their own cycles of abuse they've trapped themselves in, the people that they've isolated themselves from, the literal health issues they've created for themselves from the stress they've built from being this type of person. One of the most common questions I get asked on my streams or in email or in DMs, and hell, there's a few people in this chat who can probably say that they are some of the ones who've asked this question. So many times I've been asked, how do you cope with it all? How do you handle all of the terrible shit you talk about and you deal with all the time? Hell, if you're one of those people who's asked that question in chat, why not sound off right now? Here's your moment. Here's your moment for shits and giggles. And the answer to it is almost always going to be the same. I try to have a healthy relationship with the stuff that I talk about. I don't stay angry about the stuff that I'm covering when I'm done on stream. I bottle that anger for just long enough to use it on a stream, talk about the thing that I think is a problem, and then afterwards, it's discarded. It's gone. I will come back to it later if I need to, but I've let it out. I vented it out, and then afterwards, I've gone and I've spent time with my loved ones. I've gone and I've spent quality time with my friends. I've gone to the card shop. I've gone into a happy place. I've started playing WoW. I've done any number of things that are healthy alternatives to just dealing with those bad feelings all the time and suffering through them. The way I deal with talking about literal murders and shit that should either desensitize me or really, really fuck me up on streams, I spend time with my loved ones. And I make sure that there is a proper place for that anger to go, instead of bottling it up or unleashing it on people who do not deserve it. I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it. I'm not saying I even do a great job with it. I don't love being angry. Not because I don't get the feeling of righteous indignation everybody else does, the concept of it. I've taken enough time to look at the psychology of how human beings operate to understand that I do not like entering that cycle, and I don't think anybody else should. So what should you do? Well, I'm going to go and tell you the first thing you can do. Log the hell off of Twitter. Log the hell off of Facebook. Log the hell off of whatever social media you're on. Whatever thing you go on where you're fighting with people, whether it be a poll chan board, a forum post, Twitter, what have you, I don't care. Just get off of the thing. Whether it's permanently or for like 10 hours out of the day, get off of the thing. And go pet a cat. Go touch some grass. Go cuddle a friend. Go hang out with a loved one. I don't care what you do. Do something healthy. And when you're on there, if somebody's saying something horrible and you're thinking, now is the time to waste my energy and spoons fighting with this person, ask yourself, would it be better to fight with this person online, or would it be better to create something that can inform people about the problem that this person is talking about? Somebody's being anti-Semitic online, you could fight them individually. It won't do a whole lot. You might not even change their mind. But anybody can create a blog post talking about the various ways that people online are anti-Semitic and the various ways you can counter that anti-Semitism by looking at the ahistorical way that they approach the world around them. That's a thing you can do, and that's a really important thing for people to read, because it's very easy for somebody to become anti-Semitic themselves, not because they, hate Jewish people and therefore go down that route, but because they, as an individual, just start consuming that information without a filter. You can be that filter. You have every ability to be that filter. You just have to choose to do that. You have to choose to put your energy into that instead of fighting on social media. You can tell yourself all day long, no, it's my job to fight this everywhere I see it. But the reality is, some of the people that you're fighting, they specifically are looking for a fight. You may be looking for to change the world for the better, but plenty of people are just looking to make the world burn around them. And I can tell you which ones you're going to be helping getting into those fights. Oftentimes, it's not going to be the people you're trying to advocate for. Oftentimes, it's just the troll. The days of don't feed the troll seem to have died away. They seem to have died a very violent death online. And now everybody is more worried about fighting the trolls than ever, not realizing that that's what most trolls want. But most importantly, you should be looking at yourself and recognizing that it's not just the troll's fault. You're engaging with them because you like the feeling of fighting them. That feeling of anger, it feels really, really good, doesn't it? Also, Citrus Peppercorn, holy fuck, that's 10 community subs. Jesus. But thank you, I appreciate it a lot. So no, this is very, very long-winded. This is very, very rambly, but the point is, I want people to recognize that inner part of themselves that they are using incorrectly. I also, in preparation for doing this particular talk, when I was doing my research into human psychology before doing this, I decided to look on Twitter, not on Twitter, on YouTube, to try to find videos about why do people like being angry. It took me 5 seconds to find an article on Google about why people like being angry. Multiple of them. I have one from mentalhealth.net. I have one from Psychology Today that I read in preparation for this. But you know what I didn't find on YouTube quickly? I found videos talking about how to better handle your anger, how to better manage your anger. I barely found anything on YouTube talking about why people like being angry. Why people like taking in that poison. You know what I did find, though? I found a lot of Jordan Peterson clips. And if there's anybody that I don't want to be the person that tells people how to handle their problems, it's probably Jordan Peterson. I do not feel comfortable with him having access to people's psychology. So, I have to ask you, why do we not see more of the actual information that matters in places like YouTube? We can find it on Psychology Today, but I guarantee you most people are not looking for that. Most people are not reading through mentalhealth.net, Psychology Today. Most people aren't doing that. They're browsing YouTube. They're scrolling through. They're letting the algorithm pick what they want. So what are they going to find? I think it's pretty obvious. The very first thing they're going to find is Jordan Peterson telling them how they should handle themselves. I think we should probably do better than that. I think as content creators, we should probably be trying to make more content that talks about how addicted people are to being angry. And instead of doing the usual thing that we really like to do, and that I know we're still going to do, where we talk about how this person's just stupid online, most of us don't talk about how to convert that into something healthy. We're more concerned with that same level of being righteous and good than we're concerned with actually changing the world around us for good, or ourselves for good. Sakura says, I think there was some stuff related to anger I've seen on YouTube, as in the concept of anger. Yeah, I saw a little bit of that. Just like a few videos talking about it. But what I really wanted were some videos talking about why human beings like being angry, why people like that righteous indignation. And I didn't find a whole lot of that. I found that when I took my search elsewhere. I didn't find that on YouTube. It might not be that it doesn't exist. It could easily be that that's not what the algorithm decided to show me. But I think that automatically shows the problem, because everybody is going to get their YouTube consumption from the algorithm. It's going to feed them stuff regardless. So, I don't know. It's long, random, rambly conversation about why people like being angry. If you think I'm off base on anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And just let me know what your thoughts were on this. Because I like doing L-Hack videos like this. XLR Gaming, thank you for gifting out 2 subs. And Citrus Peppercorn, thank you for the 90-bit cheer, saying Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson, we can't just call them incels. No, we have to talk about why they're wrong. I want to get y'all's honest feedback. There's a reason I did the survey about what's going on with my channel. There's a reason that I'm trying to get that feedback from all of you. And it's not just because I want to see comments popping up in YouTube so I get more engagement. Though, as somebody who does have this as my job, I will say there's an ulterior motive there. I do want there to be comments for engagement. But strictly speaking, what I want more than anything is feedback. I want to know, do you guys like me doing episodes like this on top of my usual response ones, where I take a few hours every day, I do some research on a topic, and then I come to you guys and talk about it. And hopefully talk about it in a way that will not get H-Bomber Guy angry at me for plagiarism. God, that's a whole nother thing to talk about. God, before I end the video, I just want to say, looking at the videos from James Sunderland, was it James Sutherland? Either way, looking at the videos that he did, just the amount of unenthusiastic person reading his script made me wonder why anybody could like that content in the first place. Anywho, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, you made it to the end. That's, you're here. I'm glad you're here. I'm not upset because people keep on turning every inanimate object around me into a waifu. I'm definitely not upset about any of that. Let's go to something that's not an inanimate object around me being turned into a waifu. This one's from Nox Lupus. It's the Constitution of Suris? Huh. Let's see what's in here. It says here, I wrote a constitutional charter for your chat with the advent of the class system between YouTube and Twitch chat on live streams. The Constitution needs to be ratified by the Honorably Skeptic Neko Suris before it can be displayed on Fridge-chan. I thought this one didn't have any inanimate object waifus, but apparently it does. Art 1, you have the right to... Article 2, no chat is made equally. Article 3, nukes are a declaration of war. Article 4, aras are compulsory. Article 5, everything is a waifu if you're brave enough. Article 6, never release the slimes. Article 7, stay hydrated. No, I cannot ratify this because Article 7 should also be never release the slimes. Anywho, the next one we have here is from Lemon Bub, just a little cat boy. This looks fantastic. This is adorable. The next one we have here is from Living Thrash Can. Been a while since my last fan art, so I said, why not? Anyways, hope you like it. I do. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and go to the credits. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.